Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hey, hello and welcome to Visible Women on LinkedIn, Season 2, Episode number 6. Oh my God, this is the final episode of Visible Women on LinkedIn. I am excited and a bit sad all at the same time. But it's not done yet. This is only the beginning of episode 6, right? And this is going to be another great conversation to round off the show. So I am excited to be here with you as always. And I am excited that you are here with me as always. So before I introduce my awesome guest for today, I want to know who is in the house with us, who is logging on for this grand finale. I've never known how to pronounce that word. I think it's a French word, like grand finale, or is it finale? However it is, right? This is the grand one of season 2. And I want to know who is in the house with us, who is representing, and where are you representing? And if this is your first time tuning in, what took you so long? We're on episode 6. But it's great. It's so wonderful to have you here. Ladies and gents in the audience, let's see who we've got. Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Sandra, you're the first one. You're the first one again today. That's a round of applause there, Sandra. Good to see you, Sandra. Good to see you, Antoinette. I think this is your first time, Antoinette. Great to see you. Awesome. Tamara is in the house. Yay! Tamara Monlouis. Good to see you. Chris is here. Sonia's here. Good to see you, ladies. Stella, guten Abend. Guten Abend to you too, Stella. Juma is here. Hey, I love it. We always have the brothers coming in to represent. Hi, Juma. Great to have you with us. Hi, Avina. Hi, LinkedIn user who I don't know, but hello, good to see you anyway. Malachi's in the house. Yes, he's literally in the house. He is literally in the house, but he's also in the house. So good to see you, Malachi, in the house. Charmaine is in the house. Makiba, yes, from El Dorado, Arkansas. Is that right? Is that where Dorothy's from? Good to see you, Makiba, and Charmaine from Toronto. Alison Bristow. Oh my gosh. Wow. Now that is awesome. Alison, it's so good to see you here. But ladies, I am so happy to have you joining us tonight. For those who are tuning in and this is your first time on Visible Women on LinkedIn, this is a show where I have some awesome, what I call candid conversations with women who are doing amazing things in their business and they're being visible about it on this platform that we call LinkedIn. So over the last 5 weeks, I have spoken to a range of awesome guests, and tonight is not going to be any different because the lady I'm speaking to is absolutely awesome herself. And I cannot wait to dig in to find out all about her, and to share her with you. But listen, if you are watching, I want you to react to show that you're watching, whether that's a like or love or curious, insightful, whatever it is you want to do, just react. So it gets like a way, it's like taking a register, like in school, you take the register so you know who's there and who's not there. So just give it a quick reaction so I can see who's with me here. And then lastly, if you haven't already registered, and I tell you why it's still worth registering, because there's going to be a surprise announcement at the end. Wait for it. You have to stay all the way to the end. There's going to be a surprise announcement, but register at mildredtalabi.com/visible women so you can get free updates and everything that's going on around being visible on LinkedIn, because that is the whole point of this show, to inspire you to start being visible on LinkedIn. Why? So that you can build your business, build your brand, so you can develop a tribe of people who are into what you do, who want to buy your services, who you can serve, and who you can grow with. So you can build your own community, so you can have a business that works, That's why you want to be visible on LinkedIn, not just for vanity reasons, there's good reasons behind it, as we will find out in the conversation today. So just a quick roundup before more hellos, and then I'm going to let my guest come in. Because I know she's got so much to say and I want her to come and share it with us. So Liz is in the house. Hi, Liz. Good to see you, Liz. Julene is in the house. if I don't call your name, it's because this thing scrolls so fast and I don't always get to see everyone's name. But afterwards, at the end, I absolutely will go through the comments and give you a shout out and a hello there. So please don't be offended if I missed your name because it's going so fast. But also, if you're watching a replay, hashtag replay. So I know that you're watching a replay, right? I like my replay crew. So good to see you, replay crew, when you're watching this, okay? So, okay, Hannah from Nashville, Tennessee. Lovely to see you here. I am going to now bring on my guest. I am going to bring her on because I'm excited to speak to her. And one of the reasons I'm excited to speak to this lady is because she specializes in working with introverted leaders, women leaders who are introverted and high achievers. Now, when I tell people that I am an introvert, they're like, oh, no way, you do public speaking. You know, you do things like LinkedIn Live. There's no way you can be an introvert. I'm like, listen, because you misunderstand what it means to be an introvert, right? So I'm hoping that part of what we're going to get to in this conversation is we're going to dispel some myths around being an introvert and actually let people know what exactly it means. And if you do identify as an introvert, how can you be visible, right? How can you step out from behind the shadows, so to speak, and be visible? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest for today. Her name is Carol Stewart. She is an executive and career coach for high achieving introverted women. And she has also written an awesome book called Quietly Visible. And on LinkedIn, she has a huge following. I think the last count was well over 70,000 people who plug into the work that she does on this platform. So I want to bring her on so she can tell us a lot more. So Carol, are you ready? Are you here? Are you present?
Hello. Hi, Mildred. And hi, everybody that's watching.
Hi, Carol. It's so good to have you. Good to have you here with us. Now, I know I kind of did an intro about who you are and what you do, but I want to hear from you. Let's hear from you in your own words. How do you describe exactly what it is that you do, Carol?
Okay, so I'm known as the coach for high achieving introverted women. I'm an executive and career coach, and I coach women who are senior leaders to be visible, to exude presence, to influence and make an impact. And I also work with organizations delivering training, workshops, webinars on personal development, leadership development, and career development as well.
Wow.
And that's
Wow.
in a nutshell.
Okay. And you have your book. When did your book come out? Quietly Visible?
This is my book, Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. I published it at the end of January last year, and it was listed as one of the 10 best self-development books written by women to read during lockdown by Be Your Own.
I love that. I absolutely love, and I love the title of the book. It's so great. Quick question. Did you watch Susan Cain's TED Talk on Quiet?
Yes, I've watched her TED Talk. I've read her book.
Okay. Do you know what's funny? And I want to take you back to where all this started from you. But I remember watching that some years ago and it literally made me cry. It made me cry because for the first time, I felt like somebody understood exactly what was been going on in my head all these years that I didn't even understand. So I love that, and I love that you specialize in this field. Dealing with introverted women who are high achievers, etc. But let's go back. Let's take it back to the beginning. So when you were small, little Carol, what did you want to be?
So very little Carol, and this is something that my mum tells me, very little Carol wanted to be Cinderella when she grew up.
Of course.
But then once I got to an age where I wanted to be, when I was at school, I wanted to do something that made a difference to people, but I wasn't quite sure what field that was. It was either to do some sort of social work or community work, working with people and helping to make a difference in people's lives. But that wasn't the path that I went down. I started my career working in the Ministry of Justice, working in magistrates' courts. I started off in a very junior role in Sheffield. That's where I'm from originally, Sheffield, and moved to London when I was 19. Started working in the courts in London, and then I proceeded to progress up the career ladder, working within that organisation. So started off as a typist and worked my way up to a senior leader until 2011, when and I had responsibility for a group of magistrates courts. I was what was called a group court manager. And in 2011, lots of changes were being made in the organisation, and my job was to be deleted. And I thought to myself, I didn't want to be deployed into something else. I wanted to be in control of my career. And I thought, what could I do if I was to do something differently? Prior to that, I'd never, ever thought about running my own business. And then when I thought about it, I thought I wanted to do coaching. Coaching had always been an add-on to what I did as a leader. And when I look back at what it was that I was good at and what I enjoyed just coaching people and seeing that difference when people didn't have that belief in themselves, and seeing the transformation once they started to believe in themselves and what they were capable of. So I decided I was going to start my own coaching business. And so I took voluntary redundancy. Even though I'd done a lot of in-house coaching training, I didn't have a formal coaching qualification. So I enrolled at university and I did a master's in coaching psychology at the same time as starting my business, Abounding Solutions.
Okay. So that's like a quick whistle-stop tour of your career. But okay, I'm gonna go back to the beginning once more. Let's go right back. So growing up, because you specialize with introverted women. When did you first come in contact with that word introvert? Do you remember?
I think I really came into contact with it probably towards the end of my career working in the courts. So as a child, I was quiet and I lacked confidence. And my earliest memory of lacking confidence was just before I started school. And I remember going to visit the school with my mum. We were in the school hall, getting to meet the teachers and the other students, and all the other kids were playing with each other. And I clung to my mum. And that was the story of my childhood. I was quiet. I lacked confidence. And once I got in, that was my story, my teens. And then once I got into my early 20s and I had my son, I became a single mum when he was 6 years old. And I recognized that if I wanted him to grow up to be bold and confident, I needed to model that behavior. So I started to do a lot of work on my self-development. And as I did, I began to realize something. I began to realize that I was actually quite confident. When I looked at what some of my friends were doing and what I was doing, I thought to myself, well, I'm actually I'm more confident than my confident, and I put in introverted commas, friends. And I began to realize that I was quiet, I was introverted, but I still hadn't made the association with introversion. I just recognized that I was quiet, but I was confident. And once I accepted that I was quiet but confident and that it was okay, I actually saw my confidence level soar. And then it was when we did the Myers Briggs test at work, as part of the leadership team, the area leadership team, we all did the Myers Briggs test together. And that's when I identified I was introverted. But prior to that, there are a lot of misconceptions about what introversion is. And so it wasn't something that I'd wanted to associate with. And so when I did the Myers Briggs test, and I totaled up my scores, and I kept getting this I, and I thought, I don't want this I, and I would re-add my scores, seeing if I could get something different, but I couldn't. And yes, I was introverted. And I remember at the time, and the way it was done was everybody had to go into a corner of the room, dependent on what their scores were. And I was one of the few introverts that went into the corner, the I corner. And I thought, still didn't want to own this. Mm-hmm. And then it was once I started doing the Masters in Coaching Psychology, and I was studying the work of Carl Jung, and I really got to understand what introversion is. And I really started to understand myself a lot better. And that introversion isn't something that you need to get over. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not an illness. It's nothing. It is just a natural way of being. And once I really understood that, I accepted, well, this is who I am. And I became introverted and proud. And I sort of wear that badge with honor.
Yes, I can totally relate to a lot of that whole not wanting to associate with the word introvert because of the negative connotations. Talk to us about some of those negative connotations that you particularly wanted to run away from.
So, well, I'll put it this way. A few years ago, so probably about 5, maybe 6 years ago, I was out networking and I was talking to a woman and I told her that I was introverted. And she said to me, "Oh, you don't look like an introvert." And I thought to myself, well, what's an introvert supposed to look like? Was I supposed to be huddled up in the corner, too scared to speak to people? And so I thought to myself, I'm going to put a call out on social media and ask people when they think of the word introvert, what comes to mind? And I did. And I got responses such as shy, lacking confidence, don't like public speaking, social recluse, socially anxious, aloof, unfriendly, and much more as well, which just highlighted the extent of the misconceptions that exist around introversion.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like it's not. And again, I think I got this from Susan Cain's book, the whole quiet thing. Like in Western society, it's extroversion, being out there is really praised. But like in Eastern societies, it's like being calm or quieter is something that is actually an asset over there. So it's a
That's
cultural
right.
thing, isn't it?
And even Nordic countries, they value introversion as a leadership quality as well. But it's like here in the UK, the US, some other Western countries, it's extroversion, as Susan Cain puts it, the extrovert ideal. And that is like an omnipresent belief that the ideal self is alpha, gregarious, and comfortable being in the spotlight. That's what she says in her book. And that is historically been associated with what makes a good leader. And as a result, there's a lot of unfavorable bias towards introversion in the workplace, in the corporate environment, in society as well.
So no, definitely. So then growing up, so you never associated with the word introvert because it didn't come across your radar and it's not something that you thought of. But how did you grow up in terms of the being quiet and lack of confidence? How did that manifest itself in your social circles at school, at university, if you went there? Like what did that look like for you?
So for me, it was doubting myself. Self-doubt was an issue for me sort of growing up. I mean, I still had a social life and I had friends, and I had quite a number of friends, and I like to socialize as well. And that's why I didn't associate myself as being an introvert because, in my younger years, I like to party with the best of them. But the only thing is that I would find that, if you're in a social environment and there's a lot going on, I'd be quite happy just to stand there and watch people watch, and not make conversation. But that you would get seen as being unsociable. So I would make the effort to talk, but I would be quite comfortable just to observe. So that was sort of like my teens, my early 20s. I still put myself forward to things, but it's just that I would doubt myself a lot.
That's it. So then you do this Myers Briggs test. And so would you say that was kind of like the awakening for you? Is that where it all started, with really starting to embrace your introversion as a positive thing?
No, I didn't really embrace it. I embraced my quietness. But as I said, because of the negative connotation associated with introversion and the misconceptions, I still didn't really understand then what it was, what it meant. And so I had embraced. I was quiet. I was confident, but quiet. I was confident and quiet, should I say. But it was only once I really started to study what introversion was and I really got a grip of what it actually means that I really embraced it.
And what made you? So Hannah says here, as an introvert, people exhaust me and drain my energy. This is why I prefer to not be around crowds and social settings for too long.
Yes.
Hi. We can
We
introverts
can
are like, oh
relate.
God, yeah, we can relate. Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
So even though you didn't accept it, so you do the Myers Briggs test and you don't quite accept it. You're like, okay, it's this thing that's over there. So what made you want to study it then? Why did it capture your interest?
So it was when I was doing the masters in coaching psychology, and there was one of the modules was psychology of the self and others, and we were looking at Freud, we were looking at Carl Jung, and looking at their work, and then I started to get an interest in introversion, extroversion, and how he defined it. And so for one of my assignments, I focused on it for one of my assignments, and that was what really sort of piqued my interest in getting to know more and understand more about it. Was
Okay.
the work, sort of studying the work of Carl Jung.
Okay. So putting that in the timeline. So at this point, had you already left your job? Because you were working you were in your role for like, is it 28 years in total you were
Yeah,
before you
yeah.
transitioned into coaching? So at this point of this discovery, you'd left your job and you just started out in the
Yeah,
coaching. Okay.
so I'd
All
started
right.
my business, my coaching business. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So were you
Yeah.
kind of thinking of, all right, I need a niche. What's it gonna be? Was that the thought process?
No, that wasn't the thought process. Well, my niche actually was women going through midlife career change initially. So when I first left employment and started my business, and I started to get in a lot of women who were, because I was in my 40s then, getting a lot of women who were also a similar age, who were fed up at work, unhappy, but didn't have the confidence to do anything about it. And so they came to me because they saw that I had done something about it. So then, as that was my area of I made that my area of speciality. And then I started to get younger women coming to me to say, well, I'm fed up at work and I don't have the confidence to do anything about it, but I'm only like in my 20s. So I started coaching women of all ages. And I was coaching women who were in employment, women who had their own businesses, doing a lot of work with women who wanted to leave employment and start their own businesses. And then it got to, I think it was about 2005, 2006, I started to reflect on the people that I had worked with. And I noticed a common pattern. Majority of them are introverted. And I'm introverted myself. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so then I started writing articles on LinkedIn about the challenges that introverted women face in the corporate environment as leaders. And I started getting inundated with messages, comments on my articles, people emailing me, telling me about their challenges and their experiences. And some of their experiences, you think, this day and age, are quite horrific. And so that's when I decided to make it my area of speciality. I had been reluctant to initially because I thought that's maybe going to make it a bit too narrow, but it had the opposite effect. So by narrowing down to that, it's actually blown me up, so to speak.
Absolutely. It's that whole niche down thing.
Yeah.
People get scared of that in business, but the
Yeah.
narrower you are, the better it is for your business and your
Yeah.
audience. So, okay, awesome. So you mentioned LinkedIn. So you started writing articles on LinkedIn. So does that mean that, when did you join LinkedIn and what did you join it for?
I joined LinkedIn when I started my business. I think it was 2012, end of 2000, about 2012, 2013. So I didn't join straight away when I started my business. So I think it was probably about 2012, 2013 that I joined LinkedIn. And I wasn't really using it as such, but it was once they introduced the publishing platform in 2014. And then that's when I started writing articles. And I had sort of recognized that writing was my thing in terms of how I market my business. And so I started publishing articles on the publishing platform. And this was before I narrowed down to introversion. And I started getting a lot of attention for my writing, a lot of people connecting with me. My audience started growing, getting work through it as well. And it's just grown from there.
Okay. Okay, so prior to starting your coaching business, while you were working as an employee, you weren't on LinkedIn?
No, because I had no need to be on LinkedIn really, because like the organization that I worked in was quite a large organization, and I had had a number of promotions within the organization. So so if I go back to say the 90s, so after I became a single mom, my plan was at the time I was studying with the Institute of Legal Executives, doing the legal executives course, and my plan was to become a solicitor but go the legal executive route. And then I became a single mum whilst I was sort of still studying. And so once I completed my studies and started looking for legal exec work with the intention of then going on and becoming a solicitor, I got offered a job by a law firm to head up. They were setting up a conveyancing department and they wanted me to head it up. But the salary that they were offering me was lower than what I was on at the time. And even though they said to me that what I would earn would eventually far exceed everything I could ever earn working in the courts, because I'd become a single mum, I had a mortgage to pay, and I felt that there was more security working where I was. And so I didn't pursue that avenue. I decided to pursue a leadership career within the organisation that I was in. And so that's what I did, was I pursued a leadership career, did the leadership qualifications, leadership development training, and stayed in the organisation until 2011.
Okay. And then what year did you transition to your own business?
2011 was when I left, yeah.
Okay, and that's when you started your own business. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your confidence levels like at this point? Because you spoke of how you had low confidence and you started working on it when you became a single mother. So how soon after that, becoming a single mother, did you start the business? And then what was your confidence levels like?
So whilst when I becoming a single mum and becoming self-employed, that was 96, 15, no, yeah, 15 years.
Oh, wow. It's a long time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 15 years, yeah.
Okay. So you've already done the work in yourself.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of work on my self-development over the years. So when I left work, I still doubted myself, but I had confidence. So I could recognize when I was getting in my own way.
Okay. How do you describe confidence?
To me, confidence is being comfortable with who I am and having the courage to do all that I need to do.
Okay, awesome. So, and so for somebody who's lacking confidence, because obviously confidence is not something that is just, oh, introverts don't have confidence. You know, people mistake quietness and confidence. But how do you get to that place of confidence? How did you get there? Was it through the whole personal development journey that you went on? Is that what made you more confident?
Yes. So that working on myself, that self-development, and recognizing, what my self-limiting beliefs were, and then being able to manage those and to challenge myself. And also, when people talk about confidence, or they say they lack confidence, sometimes they're just very general and write themselves off. Whereas if they unpick it, it might be that they lack confidence in one particular thing, which may be because they are not experienced in it, or they may need training. And so when people tell me that they're not confident, I will say, are you really not confident? Or is it that there is a specific thing that you need to develop your confidence in, or you need to get experience in, or you need to get training, or you need to get some support in, rather than writing yourself off? And it's the same with imposter syndrome, because I had experienced that as well. And I remember when I got promoted to the senior leadership role, and I got promoted quite quickly over a short scale of time, from a junior first line manager to a senior leader. And then when I got into this big role, I started to think, oh my gosh, they're going to realize they've made a mistake. Any moment now, I'm going to get an email, or I'm going to get a phone call. I'm going to say, Carol, we're really sorry. We made a mistake. We shouldn't have given you the job. And so then I started to put a lot of pressure on myself. But because of the work that I'd done on my self-development, I quickly realized that I was self-sabotaging. And so what I did was I thought, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go through what my role is and identify what it is that I'm struggling on, because they believe that I'm capable of doing the role. So I need to believe that myself. And so that's what I did. And I identified there were two specific areas that I was struggling with. One of them was the budget responsibility that I had, because I hadn't had budget management responsibility before. And then the other was the health and safety responsibility that I had, because I now had responsibility for four buildings. And this is around about the time when the Corporate Homicide Act came into place. And I'd been on the health and safety training for senior responsible person. And I was told, and the rest of my colleagues were told, that as a senior responsible person, if someone came into one of my buildings and had an accident and was killed, he could be liable for corporate homicide. So I thought that was like no pressure there. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I'm thinking, well, I don't understand all this health and safety stuff, because it's a dry subject to me. But once I identified it was just those two particular areas, I was then able to get the support that I need to bring me up to speed. My job description at the time had loads of things on it, but two specific areas where I was sort of beating myself up about. But once I identified that, I was able to put in place what I needed so that I could do my role to the best of my ability.
Okay, so you're saying that to get more confident, you need to really narrow down on where you're lacking confidence and work specifically on those areas. Is that the tip?
That's right, yes. And if it's that you're doubting yourself, then look at what your beliefs are. So we're very much led by our emotions, and the way that we think affects how we feel, and we act and behave according to how we're feeling, or many people do anyway. And oftentimes the belief that we have about ourselves, or what it is that we need to do, or the situations that we're in, are not accurate beliefs. And so it's about recognizing those self-limiting beliefs, challenging them, and changing what you believe. Because if you change what you believe, you'll change how you feel. If you change how you feel, you'll change how you act and behave.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So Darrell says, I can relate to Carol. I am an introvert, but I've made strides with my confidence. That is awesome. Gula, Chris, the extroverts in the audience, we love you. Don't worry. We love you still anyway. Okay. And everybody else who's an extrovert.
Just seen a message from Olukemi.
Yeah.
Carol, my first coach. Thank you for your support. You're welcome. You're very welcome.
That is awesome. I absolutely love it. Okay, that is awesome. So you've talked about some limiting beliefs that you've had, Carol. So can you talk us through what some of those beliefs were specifically and how you overcame them?
So I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that I was introverted and the misconceptions that were around introversion, and also that feeling that I'm not good enough, which I think probably stemmed from childhood, because oftentimes these beliefs stem from childhood. So as a child, I grew up in Sheffield. I was the only Black girl in my class. And even though I didn't experience racism, direct racism, my white friends, we all played well together, but I was aware that I was different. And as a result, not feeling good enough. And I remember there was a game that we used to play when we were little at school, where there was four of us, three of my white friends and myself, and I always had to be the servant. And I didn't know about racism at the time. They didn't know about racism. And I remember thinking it just didn't feel comfortable. It didn't feel fair. And so I would say, someone else can be the servant. And so they'd say, let's take a vote. But of course, they took the vote, and it always ended up that I would be the one that was the servant. And in terms of that experience, that was just probably learned behavior that they were playing, or what they'd seen on TV that they were playing. So things like that have shaped, even without probably realizing at the time, the way that I saw myself. So once I got into the workplace, not feeling good enough, doubting myself, even though I progressed in my career, there were times where I would probably still feel, oh, I'm not good enough. So then even when I got to a senior leadership role, and I was a single mum, and I would go to meetings with like the judiciary and other sort of senior professionals within the criminal justice service. And I would feel, oh, because I hadn't gone to university either. I was now a single mum. Feel, oh, did I really fit in there? So those sorts of things play a part in that not feeling good enough. But as I said, because of the work that I've done on my self-development, it was easy for me to recognize that I'm getting in my own way. And so even since starting my business, every now and then it may rear its head. And when I wrote my book, I remember at the time I'd done my manuscript, sent it off to the publishers. And then I remember thinking, oh my gosh, who am I to write a book like this? What, people are going to think, who does she think she is? Those are the thoughts that started going through my head. But then I had to quickly shut it down.
And you have to, isn't it, before it takes root? Send it back away.
If you let it will stop you from moving forward on doing what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nicholas says, yes, taking the time to reflect on your values, what you stand for, can help us change our direction, and doing so help us grow in confidence. Thank you, Nicola, for sharing that. Okay, so I want to know, the transition between your work and, so you had this job for 28 years. You basically had a job that looked after you financially and all of that, and then you had to step out of that and start your own business as a coach. So what was that like? How did you feel, making that transition? What was it like initially showing up for yourself, not for anybody else, but for Carol now?
It was exciting and it was scary because I'd been used to a regular paycheck, and each month since I was 16 years old, I'd always worked. To now, I was having to sell myself, so to speak, to generate an income. So that was kind of challenging at first. And those first few months after I left employment, you become institutionalized when you work in an organization, and you see yourself, that becomes part of your identity. And I remember when I first left employment, and before I'd sort of got comfortable saying, I'm a coach, I've got my own business, I had this bit sense of, who am I? I'd go to networking and people say, oh, what do you do? And I'd be like, what do I do? Because I'd become associated with my role as a group court manager. So I was so used to saying, I'm a group court manager. Then it's like a loss of identity, as I sort of had to shape myself into this business and starting something from scratch where I'd never, ever had to sell my services before. It was a steep learning curve.
Oh, wow, I can totally imagine. Jane had a question. Where was that, Jane? Jane, your question. There we go. Jane says, how did you get your first client?
Right. My first client came unexpectedly, and I'd gone to a networking event, and it was, oh gosh, I can't even remember now. I remember it was one of these breakfast networking events, and everybody gets, you go around the table and everybody has to make an introduction on what they do. And I said, that I work with women who are unhappy with work, but they're too scared to do anything about it. And I help them to, and I can even remember my elevator pitch, I help them to develop the confidence to make changes and to do work that they love. And this woman came running up to me straight after and she said, that's just what I need. And she signed up. And that just felt so good that I'd actually generated income for myself, not somebody giving me a paycheck.
Yeah, and that came out of what you spoke out in public.
Yeah, a networking event. Yeah,
at a networking event. So how important has public speaking been in your journey to establishing yourself as a coach?
It has been a very important part of what I do. Very important, because I do speak. I one of the first things that I started doing in order to get my name out there and to just start getting into the public speaking was I offered some workshops to my local library, and would in an evening do workshops for the people who wanted to make a career change at the library. And that was how I kind of got into sort of delivering workshops and so forth.
And was that scary for you, public speaking initially? Again, it's something, not just introverts, extroverts, everybody's number one fear, apparently, public speaking. Were you scared? Do you remember the first time you had to speak out in
Yeah.
public?
I remember that. I mean, the first time that I had to speak in public was when I was in employment. And one of the things that I used to do was part-time, I was chair of, on a voluntary basis, chair of this youth charity. And we used to hold this annual conference, and it was at the Walthamstow Assembly Hall, and I had to go up on stage in front of 800 people and do a speech. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what if I get on the stage and I trip up or something? And then all those sorts of things started going through my mind. But then I just had to shut it down. And I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to go up on the stage. I'll say what I have to say. It's probably going to be dark, so I'm not going to be able to see all the faces, because on this, the stage would be lit up and the theatre would be sort of dark. And so I just got up on and I did it. But public speaking, if I think about it too much, and again, it's that the way that we think controls how we feel, and we act and behave according to how we're feeling. So if I think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess up, or people aren't going to like what I have to say, then that's going to make me feel anxious. So I don't do that. So what I do is just challenge the voice in my head that's telling me, oh, you're going to be rubbish, you're not going to do any good. And that was what I did when I started.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so public, that's resonating with a lot of people here, because as we said, it's like a big fear for a lot of people. Eugenia says that's her biggest problem. Allah has a question. Allah says, how did you overcome the tension of public speaking, Carol?
So as I was saying, is Matt, knowing that if I'm going to be thinking, knowing that how I act and how I feel is dependent upon what I believe about it. So what I do is when I notice that I'm feeling anxious about it, I ask myself what's going on in my mind, and then I will check what I'm thinking, check what my thoughts and beliefs are, and then I will change them. So if I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget what I'm going to say, or they're not going to like me, then I will tell myself, well, I'm going to go up there, I'm going to do my best. I know my topic, I'm going to do my best. If they like me, they like me. If they don't, they don't. But, at the end of the day, it's going to be okay. And just by changing what I think and what I believe changes how I feel. And the thing is, we often imagine the worst possible outcome. So we imagine that people are going to, are not going to be engaged, or you're going to forget your lines. But if you're worrying about that, that just makes it worse. And the thing is, even if you do forget your lines, or even if you do fall or something happens, you just pick yourself up and carry on, and you're going to be okay. And it's once you can feel and you know that you're going to be okay no matter what, that removes a lot of the anxiety about it. And then also breathing exercises before you go in. So taking deep breaths, or breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, and repeating that a few times helps as well. And another thing that I find as well is sometimes you'll see people, if they're going through what they're going to be saying right up until they're walking on the stage, sometimes that can make it worse as well. I remember when I was doing my TEDx talk last year, and I felt quite calm going into the room, because I deliberately made sure that morning I didn't go over what I was going to say, because I knew that if I did, I would probably think, oh my gosh, I forgot that I'm meant to be saying that. And then that would make me worse.
Of course. I find that when it's too much about you, it makes it worse. But when you shift the focus to your audience, it becomes a lot easier,
And that's it as well. Think about the message that you're going to deliver and the impact, and think about the outcome that you want and how you want your audience to feel as well.
Yes, awesome. I can see Kim's in the audience, who I spoke to a few weeks ago. Kim specializes in public speaking as well. So awesome, good tips in there. But Carol, so you just mentioned your TEDx talk. Tell us about that talk. What was the topic, and how did that whole experience go?
My TEDx talk is called "Introverts Make Great Leaders Too." And yeah, that was a great experience. Doing a TEDx talk was never on my bucket list. It's not something that I had said. Some people say, oh, that is like on their bucket list, or that's one of their goals. It wasn't mine. And it kind of happened by accident. So a friend of mine was doing the TEDx talk, and they were looking for more people. So she put me forward, and then one day I was going somewhere, and as I was coming off the train, my phone rang, and it was her to say, "Oh, I've put you forward to do a TEDx talk. Do you want to do it?" And I thought to myself, "But I've never wanted to do a TEDx talk before." And so then I thought, "Oh, do I want to do it?" And I thought, "Oh, why not? I'll do it." So I went ahead and I did it.
Oh, fantastic. So that's good. And that's available on YouTube,
Yes,
obviously.
yes, on YouTube. Introverts make great leaders too.
Okay, brilliant. I love that. So, Carol, you have a saying that goes, before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. Talk
Yeah.
to us about this idea.
Right. So I believe that self-leadership is key. And before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. So that is about managing yourself, your emotions, having that self-awareness of how you are and how you show up and how others perceive you as well. So leading yourself before you can lead others.
Okay, I like that. And there's one of your articles out, your LinkedIn articles, and I want to talk about LinkedIn some more, but in this article, the subject was you don't need to be loud to stand out as a leader, but you do need to have presence.
Yes.
So what is the difference between loudness and presence? Talk to us about that.
Okay, so presence is that you can have and somebody who one of my LinkedIn lives that I did the other week, someone gave a great analogy. I did a LinkedIn live a few weeks ago on presence, and someone gave a great analogy of presence, and they said it's like a mountain in the distance. It's quiet, it's still, but you know it's there. And so presence to me is that you can command a room, you can command attention, but you're not necessarily, you don't have to be loud and shouting, but people will take note of what you have to say. They will want to listen to what you have to say. Okay. And so when you think of people that have presence, so someone who I think has great presence is Barack Obama. He's not loud, he's not gregarious, but he's
an introvert. Presence. Yes.
He is, yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you know how excited I was when I found that? I was like, oh yes, you can be a president and be an introvert. Hello, you know.
And yeah. And another one who I think is a great representative for us is Oprah. You know, and a lot of people don't think she's an introvert, but she's introverted as well.
I did not know that one. Okay, awesome. I'm coming for you, Oprah. All right. That is awesome. I love it. You know, okay, so your coaching business you've had this for a number of years, and then your book comes out, Quietly Visible. Why? Mm-hmm. What made you write the book? What made you decide to? Is it because you said writing is your natural expression, and you write on LinkedIn? And was it just the next logical step, or was there something more behind the book?
Yeah. So initially, I wasn't writing a book about introversion wasn't my initial plan. Initially, my plan was to write a book for women who were starting up businesses. They were leaving the corporate world and starting the businesses, but it was going to be about the mindset of starting a business. And I'd interviewed 12 women, had the interviews transcribed, and was starting to get into the writing of that. But then, because I was starting to see the challenges around introversion, and I'd started writing these articles around introversion, I just felt compelled to write the book about it, because I see so many introverted women who are leaders who have got that internal challenge going on, that they feel that they have to put on a persona in order to fit in order to get ahead. And there's unfavorable bias that is shown towards introversion, that I felt I had to write a book about it.
I love that.
That is awesome. The other book. It may in time come out, I don't know, but I've still got those 12 interviews transcribed.
Okay, that is brilliant. So this book, this is published. Did you self-publish it, or was it a publisher?
No, I went through a publisher. Yeah.
Okay. And the title, Quietly Visible, was that your own doing?
It was. I had help from my community. So I had a title, and what I did was I had some variations on titles in my Facebook group and in my LinkedIn group. So I have a Facebook group for introverted women and I have a LinkedIn group. And I used to have another Facebook group, but I've archived that. So in my Facebook group and my LinkedIn groups, I put like different variants of the title and asked people what they thought. And so this was a mixture of probably 2 of the original suggestions based on what the feedback I had from people.
Yes, I love that. Quietly visible. So loads of people are resonating. Antonia says I resonate. You know, Chris loves the mountain analogies. I love it. So quietly visible sounds a bit like an oxymoron, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how in your, because this show is all about, you know, visible women on LinkedIn and I'm all about visibility, etc. How do you define visibility in your own words?
So it's being seen, being heard, and standing out.
Okay.
But doing it in your own authentic way.
And how can you do that quietly? Is that even possible?
I do it. You do it.
What's the difference between doing that quietly and doing that loudly? Like, so break it down for somebody who's thinking, okay, how can I do that without coming out of my show?
So when I'm doing like public speaking training, and I use the likes of, say, some people think that they'll look at, say, someone like Tony Robbins and think that they have to speak like that. And I will say, not everybody's that run onto the stage, hi everybody, that type of thing. Because if that is not who you are, you're not going to feel comfortable about it. And if you try to be like that, you'll feel inauthentic. And I'll give you a good example of someone that looked introverted, that looked inauthentic. I don't know if you remember Theresa May when she was Prime Minister at the last conference that she did. And she ran into the room, ABBA's Dancing Queen in the background, running onto the stage, dancing like that. She just looked so inauthentic. She looked like that is just not her at all. And it made me cringe to see it. I just thought, my gosh, she looked so uncomfortable. Who on earth told her to do that? Because it just looked terrible. Yes. And then when she was leaving and she gave her exit speech, she just looked natural. She looked authentic. She looked passionate. And to me, that was her being herself. To me, if she'd have been like that, instead of running onto the stage like she did, to me, she would have had more presence throughout her term as Prime Minister.
Okay, I love that. So presence is connected with being your authentic self, so to speak. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. So you have a lot of presence on LinkedIn. You have a huge presence and a huge following. You've got over 70, I think it was 71,000 I saw on in your network, which is phenomenal, right? So talk to us about in the few minutes we have left, talk to us about your LinkedIn workings. You know, how did you build up such a huge following on LinkedIn?
It was through the writing the articles, grew my audience, grew my following, and I have consistently published articles on LinkedIn. I try to do one once a week. So at the end of 2019, LinkedIn invited me to do a newsletter on the platform, which I do, and I publish articles on there weekly. Might miss a week or two. And even prior to that, I was publishing regular articles on there. And some people will start something, but they're not consistent with it. And you need to be consistent, whether it's writing articles, whether it's doing videos, whether it's posting, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to be consistent with it. And me, by continuously writing articles, publishing articles, and then I engage with the people that comment on my articles as well. I like to create engagement. I like to ask thought-provoking questions to increase the engagement, and I engage with people that comment on my articles as well. And it's paid off because I've been named a LinkedIn top voice in the UK for the past 4 years running.
Fantastic. And that's not dished out, just easily. So that is absolutely brilliant. So how many years? Because consistency is one of my big, huge value words. Like it's if you can just be consistent at something for long enough, it will pay off. I love that. So how many years were you consistent, with this? How long have you been writing articles on LinkedIn?
Since they opened up the publishing platform in 2014, I've consistently
Okay.
been publishing articles. So initially I started doing them sort of weekly, then every fortnight. It's not always been like, I've not done it every single week for the past 7 years, but I have consistently published articles on the platform. And that has grown
Okay.
my audience, it's grown my following, and it's generated a lot of work for me. A
And
lot of
yes,
work.
I was gonna ask about that.
Mhm.
The work is generated, but so your LinkedIn strategy, you post articles and you also do regular posts. How often do you post in an average week?
I don't have a set amount. So the article, that is my non-negotiable. So I publish an article that's a non-negotiable, unless I'm taking time out or something. Then I do that every week, and that can often spill it well into the next because I'm responding to comments and interacting with people. So throughout the week, I might post. I might do something like post a link to an article or make a comment once a day, or I might go a few days with every few days and do something. So I don't have like a set, I do X amount of posts a week. The non-negotiable one is the article, and then depending on what's happening in the news or what's happening in my area of work will determine how often I then post on top of that. What I do as well, which I've been doing for the past month or so, is doing like LinkedIn Live lunch and learns as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
that's
has
20 minutes on a particular topic. I call it a lunch and learn, delivering a talk on something.
I like that. I've seen some of your lunch and learn sessions. Such a great idea. It's really good. LinkedIn Live is awesome, awesome. But one thing that you have though, that I'm like, oh my God, who still uses groups because they are so dead? You said you have a LinkedIn group. Is yours alive and kicking?
It's not very active. I mean, I keep it, and I was thinking about closing it. And I did a poll. I did sort of to see whether people wanted to keep it, and because it's introverted women as well, you don't always get the engagement in there. But again, with introverts, they may not necessarily comment or engage with the post, but they're reading things.
Mm-hmm. They're lurking. They're lurking.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
but I keep the group there, and the Facebook group is probably a bit more active than the LinkedIn group.
Okay. So overall then, because you're all about being visible and you're all about, quietly visible, your books, etc. So how big a role has LinkedIn played for you in terms of building your business and your brand around this whole idea of what you do?
It's been phenomenal. I would say the majority of my work comes either directly or indirectly through LinkedIn.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. So this is great, people. LinkedIn is awesome. It should be paying us for this. This is like a commercial break, But yeah, no, I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
So
and the thing is, some people spread themselves on various different social media platforms, and when I was on Twitter, I've got a Facebook page, but I don't think you can spread yourself on so many different platforms and do them well unless you've got a big team behind you. I'm a one-woman band, so I can't do that. So Twitter, I have a presence, but I don't actively use it. I have a Facebook page, but I don't actively use it because I know that LinkedIn is where I like LinkedIn. In fact, I love the platform, and I know that my audience are on there as well.
I love it. And that's the two ingredients that makes it work. So that is absolutely awesome. Wow. So I think just to close us out with, because my God, that hour has gone by really
I know
quickly.
it's gone quickly, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, do you have like a big mission behind what you're doing in terms of raising up introverted women leaders? Is there like a mandate that you're following, and how far are you from meeting that big goal, if there is?
So for me, it's about changing the narrative so that people don't think, oh, introversion. As well as sort of coaching leaders, introverted women who are senior leaders. I also go into organizations and I deliver talks around introversion as well, and also increasing my mission is to increase awareness about the unfavorable bias and the work practices that are unfavorably biased towards introversion. So things like the way that meetings are conducted, the way that interviews are held, the way that things around brainstorming, open plan offices, which don't allow introverts to play to their best selves. So increasing awareness about that. I started a podcast at the end of January, the Quietly Visible podcast. That's doing really well. I've already had about over 1,200 listens on it. So it's just, so that's what I'm focusing on, is sort of growing awareness around the introversion, and that that you can be quietly visible, and introverts should be introvert and proud.
I love it. I love it. I feel like doing a salute, right? Absolutely. That is absolutely brilliant. And then a brilliant place to end this with, Carol. That's been so amazing. Thank you so much for your awesome insight to this topic of, being an introvert woman, introvert leader. What is the best way for people to connect with you? I mean, your book, is Amazon the best way to go and get your book, or through your website?
Yeah, Amazon. It's on. If you get it from my website, you will also get a recording of a workshop on how to overcome imposter syndrome as well, for free, if you get it from my website. But it is available on Amazon and on all major bookstores worldwide online.
Okay, so that website, would that be abundancesolutions.com?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to show that now. So if you go to abundancesolutions.com, you can absolutely pick up a copy of Carol's book, Quietly Visible. So yeah, with that additional workshop, and watch her TEDx talk, if you haven't already, So Carol, this has been amazing. This has been such a great insight. Thank you so much for your time with us this evening.
Thank you for having me, Mildred. I've enjoyed it. And thank you everybody for listening in.
Oh, awesome. I think I'm going to get Carol to promise when she's got some time to go through the comments. I know some people will be wanting to.
I will read through the comments and I will respond to any questions that are on there.
Okay, brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you, Carol, and have a lovely evening. And I'm sure we'll be seeing even more of you on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mildred. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye now. Okay, right. Oh my God, we have finished. That was absolutely awesome. Carol is awesome. You can feel her presence. You can feel her presence, in what she does. She embodies the work that she does. So I really enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did too, whether you're an introvert or not. I thought it was a really, really great insight. And yes, do go and connect with Carol on LinkedIn. Read some of her articles. She does some really great articles. In fact, she's actually the one who gave me the extra nudge, to do the newsletters, because I was like, LinkedIn newsletters, I'm not going to bother with them because I got my own, So Carol's like, it's worth doing. So I started doing it and they're really good. So yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, ladies, I told you I have a special, and Jen, I'm so sorry, gents. I told you I have a special announcement, right? Because this is the last episode of Visible Women on LinkedIn. This is the last for season 2. Season 3 will be here in May, right? But this is the last of season 2. But I can't just leave you like this. We can't just close it out like this, right? Just with the final interview. So next week, I am putting on a special session and it's going to be an end of season party. Woo! This is a special announcement. We're going to do an end of season 2 Visible Women party next Thursday at exactly the same time. Now, what is this going to be? How on earth are you going to do a party over this, Mildred? So I had some thought about this. I thought, okay, what I want to do with this party, and you guys all have to be here. Otherwise, it's not a party, right? It's just me talking to the camera. But what I'm going to do is with this party, we're going to go through some highlights, from the last 6 interviews that we did, so we can talk about, you can share, and I want you to come. I want you to share with me in your comments your best interviews, your best takeaways. I want you to bring all of that with you to this party. So we're going to be sharing some highlights from this season. We're going to be networking with each other in the comments. I want you to actively plug in and connect with each other, because one of the whole points of this Visible Woman is so that we can build this community of women who are plugged into each other. We support each other, high five each other, do business with each other and beyond, so you can network with other women in the comments. And then also in this party, I'm going to give away some prizes. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet, but I know I promised Sandra, at least one person I promised a prize, right? I'm going to give away some prizes in this party. And then I thought, because a few people have asked me about this, I thought it might be interesting for you if I share a little bit about my own journey to becoming a visible woman on LinkedIn. If that's something you want to hear, I want you to drop a yes in the comments, right? And you better show up next week for this after party, this end of season party, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to recap the season. We're going to, give away some prizes. We're going to network with each other in the comments. And then I'm going to share with you a little bit about my own journey in this pathway, so I would love you to be there. It'll be from 6 o'clock to 7. And then I'm also going to announce something else. That's always surprises. I'm going to announce something else as well. If you want to know what it is, you have got to be here next Thursday. So that's it. We're going to have the end of season party to close off the season of Visible Women. And then there's going to be something else. And then that's it until May. All right. But you're going to be here next Thursday. Look out on my feed for more details about this party. But for now, yes. Let's have this party. And I need you to come. You can wear whatever you want, but bring your party hats, bring your ideas, bring your comments, bring all of that stuff. And we'll answer some questions as well. I'll do a Q&A in the comments. Anything you want to ask me about LinkedIn, about being visible, we're going to answer it next week. So that's the end of season party. So for now, we're going to love you. I'm going to love you and leave you until next Thursday. So we got one more Thursday session in this format, and then we're done. Okay. So I'm going to see you back here next Thursday for the end of season 2, Visible Women on LinkedIn party. Thank you so much for joining me and Carol tonight. Thank you. It was an awesome conversation, and I will go through the comments. Even my replay crew, I will go through the comments and, like and support and all of that. But for now, I'm going to wish you a lovely evening, afternoon, morning, wherever it is where you are. And I will see you next Thursday, 6 o'clock GMT for the end of season after party. Be there or be square. That's right. That's right, Chris. Be there or be square. Barbara, good luck. I know you love a good party, right? So yeah, we're going to be there or be square next week. All right. Take care, ladies and gents. Have a great evening. Until next Thursday. Bye-bye.